friends. So I wanted to continue on the theme of the topic of institutional organizational abuse. And somebody reminded me, a grief counselor in my area reminded me of the power and control um, wheel. There's this little chart that breaks up what is violence, and it's like the finer points of violence and what's non-violence. So kind of what I was talking before about the double standards that exist when you're in the system compared to when you're regarded as a peer, as equal. So what I'm talking about is like human rights, equal rights, and it kind of that falls under the bus. That's thrown under the bus when you're in the system, because I'm not exactly sure why, but what does being an equal human being, what does equal rights look like? And I might be describing what seems so obvious to all of our viewers here, and I'm so it's like hidden in plain sight in a weird way, because a lot of the viewers are going to say, of course, those are normal things, but my point is that when you become in the system, when you become disabled, when you're dependent on institutions and organizations, like helping organizations, they like you lose this equal rights. You kind of lose your human rights for some reason. I don't really understand why. But what do human rights, what do equal rights look like? When there's negotiation and fairness, would you say that makes sense? Where like, does seeking mutually satisfying resolutions to conflict sound like good things? Being willing to negotiate, navigate interpersonal stuff, compromise, talking and acting so both people feel safe, or all the people feel comfortable being in the space where both people feel comfortable, disclosing what their boundaries are, also informing what their needs are. For instance, where rules are made up front, and where the rules are clear, and where the rules are consistent. Would that sound like good, mutual, respectful behavior? And so does this sound like respectful behavior when you listen non-judgmentally, being realistically, when you can honestly be affirming or validating, valuing everybody's opinions? Does that sound like healthy behavior? And how about mutual support in each other's goals, in the interaction, in the situation that we're in? So even if it's a power over, where somebody's like a therapist or a teacher or whatever, I mean, we still have mutual goals. The student is there to be the warm body, so the teacher has students to get paid for. So where there's a mutual uh, uh, like mutual rights, that both parties have a right to their feelings, their friends, their activities, their opinions. Does that sound like equal rights, equal respect? And where there's mutual accountability, where there's transparency, and there's mutual responsibility, where people can admit they're wrong and make amends, and just also like financial decisions that both people can participate in the in the financial decisions that affect both of them. So does that sound like healthy, reasonably healthy interpersonal relationships? And what I'm talking about in terms of the use of force, I would say the use of forceful control by organizations. The first one would be failing to disclose the rules and changing the rules without informing the person, like changing what words mean, what assumptions are to be determined. Like if you say it's a deadline of September 28th, what I found in the local organization is the deadline, even though they say it's the 28th, it was really supposed to be like the 15th, but there was no paper saying that. Like I was supposed to somehow guess. So mind reading, I would say, is also part of this forceful control by organizations. And but I would say that when the organization fails to communicate clearly, consistently, they will gaslight and intimidate, and even intimidate by just the mere threat of loss of access to benefits or resources. And I would call that also emotional abuse. And I would also say denying that what I just described is an issue. So denying their obligation to be clear, like denying their obligation to give like an accurate deadline, failing to be consistent. I would consider that emotionally abusive, and being that a lot of times when we're in the system, it's usually the solo individual, and so they become isolated. And because when I'm talking about this force, the use of force by institutions and organizations against vulnerable populations, use of force is so ugly, it's so repellent that our friends, the people who might care, don't want to know about it because it's just so toxic. So we become isolated because what abuse institutions do, it's just so it's intolerable. It's so unbearable. So we may isolate ourselves, and of course, the forceful, abusive organizations and institutions will minimize, deny, and blame. And I would also include like slum landlords and property owners. You could just look up reviews of just any big property or small property manager in your area, and you'll see former tenants talking about how landlords will minimize, the roof caving in or the mold or whatever, or the property manager also making former tenants pay huge repair bills that they weren't responsible for. Also, in this power control wheel, I would say using the privilege of like here it's like using like being patriarchal, but I have, like, majority of the people that I have been abused by, where it's like covert abuse, it's been females. It's females in, whether it's a property management company, a government organization, a medical situation. I mean, there's been guys too, but for the most part, women are working with the public more in this industry, and so they're using the privilege of their position, that they're representing some large organization, and so the client is treated like a servant or a slave or a commodity, just like a thing, and act like, I find that these people in organizations, like I said in my previous video that they it's like you are just part of their empire and you're just a pawn. And I'd also say using economic abuse. And I even would consider that some well-meaning people will, like, you can say as somebody who's disabled and on a limited income, you can actually say, you know, explicitly how much you make and how little money you have, and then you'll, like, I've gone to alternative practitioners where they'll give me a prescription for $150, and that's everything I had to last me for the rest of the month after paying my bills. And so it's like, and the thing is, you know, you'll, like, I've tried being explicit, but it's like nobody's looking out for you. And it's like you really have to read people's minds. So I just wanted to talk about, you know, do that compare and contrast of of the abuse of power, the use of force, and what is like mutual, what does mutual respect look like. So that, those are my thoughts at the moment. And so I think it's good to just have our terms. It's important to have definitions, and we know that there have been relationships that we've had where it's been fair, and we've been able to be honest, communicate boundaries, like, I can't meet you on Tuesday, can we meet on Thursday, you know. And I think, like, it's important to cultivate those kind of like safe relationships where you can practice those negotiation skills. And and I think also what I'm kind of wondering is, like, I think it's important to think, to plan and have like have some ideas, be able to articulate things. And I think it's also it's we have to have like a spiritual practice, and a real relationship with the divine, with God. And I mean, like, a divine being that has a sense of goodness. I think that believing in something that is just like, I used to, you know, encourage people, you know, if you could just believe in philosophy or math or physics. But the more I'm learning, is like we have to have a sense of the divine that has a moral compass. And I'm not exactly sure. And it's weird because when we look at the Judeo-Christian model, the progressive liberal context that I come from is very harsh, and regards God as this punisher. And what I'm realizing is that there's something more to the suffering that exists, that can happen. And like meditation kind of, and even like some better brain training kind of thing, there is something about being neutral, letting go of control and outcomes. And I'm also realizing that there's something about leaning on the divine. It's like we have to get out of the way, and so much self-help stuff is all about that. You know, we got to get out of our own way. And I'm kind of new to really leaning on God, and it's really hard for me to articulate because I'm still really new to this. And yet, like when I get my ego, expectations, judgment out of the way, and also when I'm realizing that I can't do it, like, and in meditation, in my meditation practice or new age kind of background, it was all about me doing it. It was all about me getting me out of the way. And so when I'm actually accessing some greater power that I believe in, because I feel like, I mean, I know this whole world, this earth is miraculous. And anything anybody could say about some, um, Big Bang and blah, 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 that to me is just as ridiculous as probably their um, assumption that I'm deluded by thinking the earth is miraculous, or that art is miraculous, or that music is miraculous, or that nature is miraculous. Like, for some reason, like, skeptics think that they can say that that's not miraculous or mind-blowingly amazing. And that's everybody's right. But anyways, I think that existence is miraculous and supernatural, and and so I've been, like, all my life, I guess I've been trying to be really practical and self-responsible, and now I'm trying to lean on God and allow His supernatural presence in my life, to help me through these hurdles. And I think, like, coming from the population that I'm in, that I just described about the disabled population, and we're lonely, alone, financially limited, and dealing with these ugly, ugly, despicable truths that are just so repellent and disgusting. People who care about don't even want to know. I mean, even our, like, formal care providers, like a therapist or a caseworker, don't even want to know. They just kind of want us to die, actually, like die or be permanently institutionalized, and where we're just thrown away, key is lost, and they don't have to deal. Like, really, I do think that there's something to that, because facing these this abusive, this forceful abuse, this use of abusive force by organizations and institutions who are supposed to be agents of the public good. It's just such a huge, monstrous, diabolical tsunami. So I can understand why care providers just ignore it, why family members ignore it, because it's horrible, it's crazy. And so that's why I'm actually thinking that the supernatural leaning on God, it's just, that's the only other option, because intellectually it's not going to work. Our trusted agents of the public good, won't help. They're not doing anything, and there's not even any infrastructure for us to access responsible parties with which to make complaints or adjustments. So our only hope is God, really, because there's nothing really there to help. Unless you have a lot of money and can afford legal help. But if you have a lot of money, then you wouldn't be in the system, because you wouldn't qualify for your disability, or you wouldn't find yourself in this abusive situation, because you would have been protected, and you would probably have an attorney kind of helping you through. So for those of us who don't have that, the privilege of money and whatever family ties. I am saying we need to take this supernatural approach because that's the only option, especially considering the health issues that are going on and the toxins that are in our environment that's, making a bad situation worse. And that's one of the things that's got me on this tack, is that not only do we have these mismanaged, unmanageable, toxic organizations that are supposed to help the vulnerable people, but the vulnerable people were being, our water is poisoned, our air is poisoned. There's Lyme disease and co-infections, and and then there's parasites and heavy metals, and then electromagnetic interference. And I know some people might be like, "Oh, she's just crazy making all this stuff up," but there's a lot of data about this, and it's like it's unmanageable to address all these organizations, address all these assaults, like chemical assaults and whatnot. So it's like pretty much impossible to track. All the, I mean, not to mention like email notifications and telephone notifications, even like trying to keep in touch with family and friends. It's like just this overwhelming, overstimulating amount of information from our phones and the internet. And so that's my encouragement, that there is hope, and it's just not quite. It doesn't have to do with reading a book or going to a government agency or doing it all yourself. So and the thing is, I am at the beginning, just the first steps of kind of this sort of like that moment in not Raiders of the Lost Ark, but the third one, where Harrison Ford had to cross that bridge and he couldn't see it. And so it's like, taking a leap of faith. And what I'm learning is that we are going to go through these very painful, excruciating, agonizing, horrible, horrible experiences. And we need to just lean more and more on God. And I know for me, I'm like, I don't want to go through this 24/7 agony of anxiety and pressure, and it keeps on happening, because like new kind of drama, like new kind of like forms all of a sudden like seem to happen, or they do happen. And I'm wondering, and I'm just kind of just beginning this, but I'm wondering that if I sort of like just use it like a meditation practice, because in meditation, as you may know, it's like you'll have this really painful, pain in your leg or whatever, and you remain neutral, like you become aware, you're aware of the pain, and you kind of examine the pain and try to detach from the pain and try to like go elsewhere rather than obsess on the pain. And like one of my, like that was a hard one for me, because I would kind of just be anchored in the pain rather than, okay, I'm just gonna leave that pain in my elbow and go to my toe or something like that. And I guess like that's what I'm experiencing right now, is just this like just regular pain, and having a difficult time getting my mind off of it. But I'm praying, and we shall see. So I just wanted to share that, that there's power dynamics, there's like ill use of power, and then there's empowering use of power, and um, and some people are somewhat trapped in um, uh, situations where they are subject to force, like toxic force. And my uh, suggestion for a solution is prayer. And actually, like, um, I know that so many people would be like, you can't pray something away. And I personally would, I say that anyway, I know that some things I can't pray away, and yet I also do believe in energy properly used, and I think that maybe the finer point of the skeptics who say, "Oh, you just can't pray," blah blah blah. I think I know we can shift energy, and and sometimes we're really stuck and we can't, and uh, and that's valid too. So I don't want to like uh, make anybody feel bad, because I'm there too. I'm still stuck in a lot of things, um, and I can see sometimes I have a glimmer of potential, like when I'm listening to an audiobook or whatever, and I'm like, oh, like I can kind of, like, if I forgive, like forgiving, that it seems like that like kind of releases pressure on a valve, and then I'm able to, it's almost like a video game, like a energetic video game, and it's like this self hack. It's like you've got to um, undo these locks inside of yourself, inside of your psyche, and uh, hey, when you unlock, whatever it is, like, is it resentment? Is it um, people pleasing, and you know, uh, or whatever? If you can, or comparisons or something like that, and if you can kind of like neutralize the charge, neutralize the tension, then this road opens up. But all the time that you're locked up, there's no road. But when you can detach, then something appears right in front of you. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say there, and that's kind of my goal in kind of doing these videos, to share and to kind of give, number one, I want you to know that your experience is valid. There's other people out there who have had your experience, and 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 you should be treated with human rights, with dignity, and honesty. And it's not that hard to be honest. It's not hard to just be clear, like, why so many organizations are playing this weird head game and being passive aggressive. To me, I'm just like, that's malicious. I mean, no matter um, how much work you have, no matter how badly paid you are, no matter how poorly treated you are, to jerk vulnerable people, disadvantaged people, sick people, broken people, to jerk them around as your way of life, as your means for your income. That's criminal. It really is. I mean, just in the in the most technical sense of the word, and yet they get away with it. And so this video, I just want to validate other people who are going through this trauma of institutional, organizational abuse, And I just want you to know you deserve to have equal rights, and you're seen, and you're realistic, and you're reasonable for wanting, just like, hey, tell me what the deadlines are, tell me what your limitations are, tell me, what I can do so I can kind of jump through the hoops quickly, and um, and also uh, like you being able to say, hey, I need you to tell me when you're going to be there. I need you to give me your extension, right? Telephone extension. So I'm not having to go on this whole federal phone number thing and never getting to that person. I need to know. I need to know your email address. I need to know that you're going to read my email or check the message I send you. Like, there has to be a two-way street, not just a one-way power trip. And so I just want to validate other people like me out there. And uh, I want, and I just wanted to share this idea that maybe it is out of our control, and in that maybe God really is in charge, and maybe these horrible things that have been happening is not punishment for us, but maybe it's an opportunity for us to lean more on our spiritual practice, and just knowing that, like, only God can overcome our illnesses, overcome these toxic people and these toxic organizations. So clearly, because they're huge. There's huge, like viruses, funguses, mold, gland problems, endocrine problems, neurological problems. Those are huge, huge things. And in my experience, doctors and naturopaths are they're barely functioning themselves. They're probably insane, in their own way, and they just know how to pretend. They just know how to pass as functional. Um, and then the big bureaucracies, those are toxic because the people behave so poorly. Um, so so I have just found these things to be like hugely overwhelming, especially for me as a solo single person without leverage and money, and I'm just like, my only hope is God at this point. Um, so um, I just want to validate my sisters and brothers that are going through this, that are sincere and trying and have tried and found things just um, failing, and maybe you felt crushed and broken many times, like over and over again. Um, and so I just want to encourage people to maybe try having faith. But what I'm wondering is, like, this faith isn't that we're going to be, that the pressure isn't going to let up. Like, we're still going to be under all this pressure, and maybe consequences are still going to be painful and disappointing, and maybe even through going through all this hell, maybe we're going to realize something. Maybe there's going to be some relief, uh, even if it is just rationalizing. And I know that doesn't sound very fantastic, um, but it's better than the insanity of beating your head against the wall that um, is just built to fail, like built to fail us, um, and built to destroy us. I think built to kind of annihilate our spirits. And I think that's unnecessary, you know, like these big organizations don't have to annihilate our spirits. It's like, it's not necessary. And these big organizations, like, it's not that hard to do their job. And even if they do want to avoid the amount of work they have to do, they could still be nice. They could still, like, kind of not cannibalize our spirit with their standardized, abusive, like, negligent business practice. Big, you know, I do feel like God has a special consequence for these people who think that they get to harm this whole demographic. I mean, I know, like, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Like, only God can judge. And I'm like, for these big organization employees that are negligent as just a way of life, for like, because they're misanthropic, they're getting back at maybe all the people who ever did them wrong in my demographic. Maybe they've got some unfinished business, or maybe they've got some, you know, pathological mental thing. But I certainly wouldn't want to be those people when heaven and when facing God, because it's just like, I have met so many people, and I'm talking about practitioners who have, like, tell me what my angst, my agony, they've heard it before. Like, what I'm talking about is common. It's like standard. And if that's the case, then there's a lot of people that kind of get paid to be abusers. They get paid to abuse vulnerable people. They get paid to like get a power trip, and they get paid for kind of like this privilege, like that they're helping people. So I think there's probably not going to be consequences in this lifetime, like in this in this reality. And maybe God is going to be like super compassionate, but just strange that it's this way. It's strange that it's so prolific. Like, that's what's so bizarre, is these big organizations are so heartless and soulless. It's like they find the most evil people to hire, like the really bad, and I'm saying most evil because they're covert. Like, when you know somebody's a jerk, you know somebody's a jerk, and you kind of, like, you know, protect yourself. But the ones that are kind of like serpents that lie in wait until you're vulnerable and then they strike, like, those are, you know, those are like, they gut you. You know, you're lacerated. You know, you've got like instant Crohn's disease after they get you. And that kind of person is like everywhere in these like organizations. Not in every single position, but kind of like some iteration. And like, before I became disabled, I never, very rarely went to the doctor. I went, you know, if I had to go, I went to a clinic. And so it was just like it was like, people were cool, people were respectful, people, you know, understood that we're all just trying to survive and get by. And when you're in the system and you're seeing, you've got insurance, and you're going to the doctor regularly, it's the worst quality of life possible. Like, I had a better quality of life never going to the doctor, never dealing with insurance, never getting tests, and not having care providers, and because, like, when you're in the system and you've got diagnoses, there's like this kind of weird wall of like you're kind of defective or weird, or are you gonna flip out or something like that, as opposed to like when you're working your retail job, you're not concerned your coworker is gonna flip out or your boss is gonna flip out, or the customer, you're not afraid so much the customer is gonna flip out. But yeah. So anyways, thank you for listening, and just know that your experience is valid and you deserve equal respect, as other people deserve equal respect from you. Like we have to treat other people well too. But I just wanted to kind of think about this phenomenon, and in my solution, because this phenomenon is so extensive and powerful, my only option is God, because, I mean, what's one complaint gonna do, So, and it's logical to me that if I get tuned into God, that I'll energetically, like I'll vibrate literally, I feel, into a better circumstance. And also, I am realizing that, so I've tried intellectually, mentally, practically to control the situation, to be responsible. And I've been frustrated pretty much at every turn. I've had some progress, some success. I've had some wins, but it's been profoundly, horribly difficult. And it feels more like a failure because it's been so hard. It's been so painful, even the successes. And so I'm wondering, like, with me letting go, because like my new age progressive liberal background is I'm supposed to be responsible. So if I let go of being responsible for how things work out, being responsible for advocating, even, like, I mean, I think it's important to speak up, but like being responsible for the outcome, like that might take some of the pressure off of that I put on myself. And so if things that happen one way or another, like I can maybe be like, just trust that, God has different, like, kind of wants me to walk a different path. And rather than, if I'm being responsible, I'll just be like, oh, I failed. Oh, the system has failed. Do you see what I mean? I'm kind of I'm talking to myself here. But like, if I put it on God, and if the outcome doesn't happen the way I think it should, being that I've put it on God, I'm not judging myself or castigating myself or the system. So, I mean, I still think that doesn't let the system, I'm not letting the system off the hook, but I'm kind of letting the consequences be supernatural rather than just a casualty of bad systems, which it could also be, but I think it just takes some of the pressure off. So just want to be supportive of other people who are navigating these dark corridors of bureaucracy, and I want to encourage you to keep God close to you and have a strong relationship. Only you can really hear God speak His special words to you that speak to you. So I hope you can make space to hear, and so I just want to send you all blessings, and I want to receive blessings too. And thank you for watching.